Hey, John Gilroy here. ServiceNow is kind of a Swiss Army knife for the federal government here. We know it's in 100 federal agencies. It may be applied in 100 different ways. Today, figuring it all out. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, the podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. Our guest today is Jonathan Alboum, Federal CTO of a company called ServiceNow. I don't have to spell that out, Jonathan. Everyone knows the company, don't they?
Everyone does now. John, thank you for that great introduction. I'm really excited to be here.
I was writing my notes for this. Is it a Swiss Army knife? Is it an umbrella? Is it a traffic cop? But if I look at the 10 events I was at this year, and I can just rattle them off, and I think ServiceNow is at all of them or is connected to all of them, or it's just like, so if you're sitting on a bus next to someone and they say, what does ServiceNow do? Do you say, you got a half hour? I mean, so how do you distill it?
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because it seems like ServiceNow does everything. And
no,
an umbrella, you call it a Swiss Army knife. I think that the real value of ServiceNow is the fact that it is an incredible platform technology. And it sounds like it does a lot of things. And certainly there's a lot of ways it's used, to your point. But the way I think about ServiceNow is it really does one thing really well. It is able to connect people, and it connects systems, and it connects data, connects organizations. And when those things get connected onto the ServiceNow platform, and we can use the technologies built into the platform, things like the core workflow capabilities that you were mentioning, the AI capabilities that we've built in, the configuration management database, which is so core to everything we do in ServiceNow, and lots of other tools like RPA. It goes on and on and on. When you use those technologies on the data, on the people, on the organizations that get connected into the platform, you can drive really great outcomes. And that model, connect things, follow a process, get an outcome, can be applied to so many different kinds of use cases in federal agencies, from the traditional technology workflows that ServiceNow started with, IT service management and IT operations management, to using those same principles to serve employees, HR service delivery, using those same principles to serve customers that are external to an agency. So customer service management kinds of things, and very government-focused customer service management requirements in our public sector digital services application, and then using ServiceNow's platform and low-code capabilities to meet very mission-specific workflows. Again, they all follow the same kind of process of, we have to get things connected on the platform. We use our core technologies, we drive outcomes. So when we do one thing really, really well, and that one thing can be applied to just about every kind of requirement a government agency has. And, it's because of that and the success we've had in the market that people think of ServiceNow, just like you described it very aptly. It's a Swiss Army knife because it does this and does this and does this.
Yeah.
And that's how it's used. So it's really a great. Well, ServiceNow is a great company. I can tell you that as an employee, but it's a great technology because it can do so many things in an agency and fill so many gaps that make it hard for people to interact with government today, with technology at a government agency today. So we're playing, I think, a really vital role of making government better.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that Jonathan worked for the Department of Agriculture for a while, so he's been in the trenches and beat his head against the wall and got frustrated. And I think everyone knows ServiceNow been around since 2003, $8 billion a year in sales, a lot of success, many different areas. Now, I'm in the classroom all the time, and I tell my students that in order to be terrific, you got to be specific. And so I want to boil this down to something with some degree of specificity. And so I was searching everywhere, and I found that you guys have a federal forum in the spring.
We do.
And so I went to your federal forum.
Yeah, this year it's going to be February 12th, 2025, or the next one, February 12th, 2025.
Put that on your calendar. And I said, finally. And so I got like 10 topics. So we go from 100, just 10 topics, and maybe there's a theme here. So I wrote down agile, data automation, forms, infrastructure, cybersecurity, new versus legacy, low code, collaboration, CF. So I'm running out of ink here. So let's take a tippy toe in the bathtub and put a tippy toe into something simple like, I guess, CX, customer experience. So you work with that as well, huh?
For sure. The customer experience. And I actually, I actually like to think about the total experience when you think about a government agency and how it provides services. Limiting it just to one aspect, I think maybe shortchanges the way somebody experiences government, right? So if if we think about the customer, and sometimes the customer is an internal customer, it's an employee. You're right, I was at USDA for a long time. I was the CIO of different agencies, CEO of the department, and when I provided a service to another employee, I was providing a customer experience to that other USDA employee. So it's all about where you sit in what your perspective is on who's the customer. So when we talk about experience, whether it's an experience for an employee or it's experience to an external customer, we think about what's it like to interact with the applications, how quickly does it take for me to get a service, how hard is it for me to get the answer that I need. So often the person who's providing that service wants to get it done fast, and they want to do it accurately, and they want to make it very easy for you, but perhaps that information is that you need is cut across three or four sources for me as the provider of that information. One of the great things ServiceNow can do is bring those different sources of information together on the ServiceNow platform, and I can present that out in a very easy way to you directly as the customer, perhaps to the agent who will provide it to you, in a phone call or some kind of chat. But I'm making it easy for the person to provide service, or I'm making it easy for an individual that needs something to do self-service. And I think that this AI revolution that we're talking about is really going to supercharge this. We're seeing it already with the AI technology that we've integrated into ServiceNow, making, we use generative AI on the ServiceNow platform to summarize a case. So if you're an agent and you're working with me on some kind of case, it might be an HR case, it might be a case related to a government program. Sometimes these cases are very long. There's a lot of history. And if it takes you 2 minutes, or it takes you 20 minutes, or it takes you 2 hours to get up to speed on the case, if I can shorten that time by summarizing that case and giving you exactly what you need to serve me, we're all in a better situation. You've done your job better, and I, as the person being served, have my information faster, and my situation can be resolved sooner. So we're seeing, the application of technology to improve the experience for everybody who's using ServiceNow really take off over the last several years, and it's only going to continue to accelerate, I think.
I feel like I'm one of those guys on TV that has like a roulette wheel spinning the topic, and
Yeah,
I spun the topic, and the topic was AI, and you kind of stumbled on the right
yeah,
topic there, because that's another one that seems to be all pervasive. So if you're pervasive in the government, maybe AI is pervasive, many different applications. And if you're listening to this and you're at the gym, or you're walking your dog, you're working in the backyard, raking leaves, whatever, and you want more information, there's a couple white papers. I saw one this morning at your site, so I'm going to put this in the show notes. It's called Impact AI, the State of AI-Powered Transformation in Government. Did you write that title? It's a pretty good title.
I didn't write the title, but I agree. It's a great title, and you know,
Yeah.
I know you're gonna link that in the show notes so people can take a
Yeah.
look at it. I think there's a couple of takeaways that are interesting. I thought I could share. There's this recognition that there are these pace setters when it comes to AI in government. They're the first adopters, and they're seeing real benefits to these technologies, and not beyond customer experience that we were just talking about. There are ways that AI can really transform the mission. And you think about things like fraud detection, or writing policy, or having policy or regulations, or things like that. We can have AI sort of create these things, and then the humans can review them. We can really understand where we might have challenges in the operation of our mission by pointing an AI at relevant data. So people are starting to see this, and when they apply it to CX topics, I think that we'll see increased trust from the public. When they get served better, they trust government better. So there are real tangible benefits. One of the challenges, and I think you'll see this in the report, is that when it comes to agencies, and you think about the Department of Agriculture, any large, complex, federated government agency, we have a lot of sub-agencies, a lot of bureaus. Those things naturally create some silos in the operation. So the opportunity to bring those silos together, and you can think about doing it through the data, or you can think about doing it through the processes. AI can really transform that. And when we're thinking about it that way, we're really, bringing AI at scale across a large, complicated agency. I was just having a conversation, it's not even with someone in the emergency management space, and we're not even talking just about how do we make this one agency work better or one department work better. How do we make functions that cut across multiple government agencies work better? So if, at USDA, I got exposed to the wildland fire mission, and that's a mission that the Forest Service shares with agencies at the Department of the Interior, but the Department of Homeland Security can be involved, including FEMA. State agencies, firefighting agencies are involved, local agencies, other organizations. So when you think about the number of groups that have to come together to fight a fire, and if we can use AI to understand how that fire might develop or where a fire might develop, what if we could pre-position resources in the right places, and so when that fire breaks out, we can get to it faster? We have the opportunity to use AI to really power the mission and make our agencies a lot more successful, and a lot more efficient. So we have those opportunities. We have the opportunities around CX, like we talked about, and I'll just offer that one of the challenges, and this came up in a conversation with a chief AI officer just the other day, is there's a lot of important conversation around regulations, around safety, around the executive order around artificial intelligence that President Biden authored earlier this year, related OMB memo. And now there's another OMB memo on the procurement of AI. And those are really important foundational steps in order for agency AI technologies to flourish. So how do you deal with these things at the same time that you're not stifling innovation? Because you have people in the mission that want these technologies to do the things we were just describing, but at the same time, you need strong foundations.
So I got a tech question for you here. I did my research on you, got up at 4 o'clock this morning, went to YouTube and typed in your last name.
Yeah.
Alboum. And I saw a bunch of videos with you and my buddy Francis. I've known Francis for years. He's a wonderful guy. And I like the one when you were talking about large language models and you talked about smaller large language models. And I've heard of video language models. And this whole concept of LLM, people are it's kind of like Play-Doh or something. They're squeezing it around and making it fit different things because, there are organizations that are listening to this podcast that are going to shy away from large language models, I would think, but they want that value. And so I think this gets the tricky part of AI is applying. Maybe ServiceNow has a way to have different types of language models for this application, huh?
Yeah, that's I think that's a great topic for us to talk about. ServiceNow's approach to AI is really about broad and secure model support. So one aspect of it is let's connect into the commercially available large language models. OpenAI, Microsoft AI, other ones that evolve over time, and agencies are going to use those. We know that, and
we know that. Right.
The goal would be to those models are going to create intelligence. Let's make that intelligence actionable on the ServiceNow platform. One thing's to have it, another thing's to do something with it, kick off a workflow or a process or do something. The other,
but separate from that, there's other applications.
That's right. The other piece is ServiceNow has created, because we've been investing in AI for years, we have created domain-specific large language models based on ServiceNow data.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
And these are smaller large language models because we have provenance on the data. We have, we understand how the models work. There's transparency, which we can offer to agencies, which ties to the requirements in the executive order I mentioned. So those smaller large language models, my term is a SLIM, right? And, because it's not the same model trained on all the data of the internet. It's trained on ServiceNow data. And then we apply those models inside the ServiceNow workflows that many agencies are already using. And when we apply those models to our existing workflows, we can make all of those workflows go a lot faster, make them a lot more effective. Do things like case summarization, like I mentioned before. Create notes,
Yeah,
do virtual agent chats that are realistic conversations.
and I think people toss that out. Large language model. No, no, there's that can get you in big trouble. We know about hallucinations. We know that happens. And so what can happen is probably because of your company's experience in slicing and dicing or silos. I mean, there's nothing wrong with silo of information because it's going to be accurate. If someone calls in FEMA from North Carolina and wants the questions, they're going to be able to draw the answers up through a valid source where you're not going to get overconfident and not correct responses. I think that's, I mean, can you imagine that being stuck in Asheville and getting the wrong answer? I mean, oh my.
Right. And that's this idea of hallucinations and bad data, that creates a real risk in the application of AI to government, requirements. What if someone doesn't get the benefit they deserve because the AI calculates it the wrong way?
Wrong way, exactly.
So, if you look at the executive order, there are a lot of requirements for agencies to really understand how AI impacts rights and safety. And the procurement memo that just came out, requires agencies to look at contracts for AI that impact rights and safety and figure out how do we mitigate those. So you just cannot rush into these technologies when you're impacting people. The worry that I have is that the technology outpaces the humanity. Right. And in the end, these things always come back to people, especially when you work in the government and your customer is the American people. We're using taxpayer dollars. If we lose sight of the impact on people, I think we've made a misstep. The best bet, in my experience, is to go slow, not avoid the work or not do it, but go slow so you don't create the blind spots that can develop when you rush. So. Wow. Go slow to go fast. I know it's a cliche, but I think in a case like this, it's really valuable. And I see that's I believe a lot of agencies are sort of in that model, in that mode at this moment.
Well, it's go slow to go fast. I've heard all kinds of cliches. In fact, there's Latin-based cliches as well. And I think when you're 22 or 23, you're going to charge up that mountain. When you're 45 or 46, you're going to find the easiest path and you're not going to fall in a ravine. Right. And and guess what? You live to be 45. You're probably going to make it to the top of that mountain and you're not going to be dead or provide someone with improper information or even unethical information. I think it's back to, hey, put a pin in that, Jonathan. Let's step back. And okay, now let's talk about what's going to happen if this happens. And look at 100. I start off with 100 different questions. I mean, it could be very simple, basic, easy questions, weather, or some serious, some medical research questions, or some questions about benefits, especially for FEMA. So I want black and white. I want to take ServiceNow. Oh, where's that fit in the Gartner quadrant? Well, it fits in 7. I don't want to put you in a quadrant somewhere. And I wanted black and white and have my outline. But I guess life's not that simple anymore, Jonathan, is it?
No, we've made it complex over time.
Yeah.
ServiceNow helps simplify it, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the T-shirt that comes out of this interview. Okay, crystal ball. Put you up on stage there at the Federal Forum on February 12th.
Okay.
So what you going to talk about, man? What's going to? Well, this is a really tough one. So what's going to happen between now and then that's going to pique your interest?
Well,
I'd like to find out.
Our theme is going to be intelligent transformation and double clicking on a lot of what we talked about here. How are agencies taking advantage of these technologies, specifically AI, but really digital technologies in general, things that are changing experiences, things that are making agencies more efficient? We want to tell stories of agencies using these technologies to really serve people and serve the mission of the agency better. We've seen so many great examples over the past several years of agencies transforming the way they work and the way they serve people because they've made strong investments in technology over time. We want to highlight those stories and, talk about how things like AI make those stories even more compelling in the future, make services even better. I'll say one more thing, John. I feel like as these AI technologies make it into people's day-to-day lives, they already have, but as they see them more and more and more, and the brands that people work with and love and buy from all the time are using these technologies, the expectation is that that government will serve them in a similar way. And there's really there's no going backwards, I think, when it comes to the way people get service. My perspective on as a consumer is that I should be able to find something on an app. I should be able to click and know where my pizza is, where my Uber is, where this is. Well, it's a reasonable expectation that I should know where my government benefit is, that I should know where the paperwork that's coming from the government is, or I should be able to fill things out, digitally, sign something digitally, pay digitally, and have a streamlined experience, just like if I'm applying for a loan or some other kind of thing outside of government. Why can't I do that in government? So the expectation's been raised. And if we, as government leaders, we have to be able to meet those expectations in order to change the way people think about government. We want to build trust. We want to create a better environment for everyone. And it starts by meeting those simple expectations, I think.
Yeah, I think I got your logo for that event. Going to be ServiceNow Federal : Transformers.
Yeah.
And have like a transform. You'll be a transformer on stage. You change into something because it's hard. That'd be a good one. Well, that white paper I mentioned earlier is going to be in the show notes, so you can click on there and find out more about that. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Jonathan Alboum, Federal CTO for ServiceNow.